Is new atheism just like new Coke? That is bad? Justin Brierley thinks so.
Hey, what's the #1 movie in America for dads with brainworms? Tune in to find out.
Be on the lookout for fascists. They might be at your local gym.
All this and more ons with Brainworms.
The Babylon Bee Podcast.
Hot on the heels of the second largest bank failure in U.S. history and the 8th interest rate hike within a 12-month period, 186 more banks are at risk of collapsing. Your bank could be next unless the Fed does what they just did back in March and prints $300 billion out of thin air, making your dollar worthless. Not to mention the recession risk that could have a significant impact on your investment and retirement accounts. Take our advice and protect your financial future with something real, like gold and silver, from my friends at Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold can help you protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver. And if you prefer, you can have it delivered securely right to your front door. Since the beginning of time, there is only one universal currency that is always of value, and that's gold. Allegiance Gold has the highest ratings in the industry. 5 stars with TrustLink, a AAA rating with the Business Consumer Alliance, and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. You can invest with confidence because of the quality and service of Allegiance Gold. Get up to $5,000 in free silver on a qualifying purchase when you visit protectwithbee.com today. That's protectwithbee.com. Or give them a call at 844-790-9191.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Babylon Bee Podcast. Hanging out with Adam Yinzer and Travis today. How you guys doing?
Good. I like Travis's Tupac shirt today.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's awesome.
This is a Denzel Washington shirt.
Oh. It's not, and that sounds racist.
I know you think they all look the same.
No,
but,
you said that.
but it says it. It says Denzel.
It's not that he thinks it look the same. He can't read.
He's illiterate. He's not racist.
Different.
He's just illiterate.
It's different. Yeah. So, yeah, we're just hanging out today, but that's very cool, Travis. I appreciate that t-shirt.
Yeah.
I'm trying to represent our, forgotten communities.
Okay.
Do you like Tupac? Are you a fan of Tupac?
I don't know a single song he's done.
Oh, okay.
So
I don't listen to Tupac much, but I like it when I hear it.
Every time I drive by Las Vegas, I go, hey, Tupac was murdered here. That's my entire knowledge
That's
of
what you
Tupac.
know about Vegas?
That's the
That
main.
he was murdered there, yes.
That's the main thing. Mm-hmm. That is what most people know Vegas for.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, just that he was murdered there.
Oh.
A lot of people, they'll get their friends together and go, hey, you guys free this weekend? Want to go to where Tupac was murdered?
It'll be great, and then we'll catch a show. Cirque du Soleil's Tupac.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this is going to be a fun episode. We've got love mail, we've got hate mail, we got a Bible verse of the week, news of the week, and we have a special interview with Justin Brierley, who talks like this.
Yeah, he is English.
And you might know him from the Unbelievable podcast. There's a question mark.
Are you asking or telling?
No, that's the name of the podcast.
Oh, that's right.
Unbelievable?
Yeah.
But we've interviewed him before, and he's an interesting guy. Did you interview him?
I
on
did.
This one? Okay. Yeah.
I did.
How was it?
It was fantastic. He's
He's not good. I wouldn't have him back. We should
embarrassing.
We should
Now,
not book him
Decided
again.
the mid.
Aside from the fact that he's loyal to the king, he was
Okay.
a stand-up gentleman.
Nice.
Okay. Very cool.
By loyal to the king, you mean Christ the king?
Yes.
Good.
Well, no, that part's good.
Yeah, that's
Despite the
good.
fact that he's loyal to
Yeah.
Christ.
Aside from the fact that he's a Christian, whew,
Yeah.
that guy.
That's always a down.
Yeah.
Muchas gracias, mi amor. Love mail.
Well, now it's time for love mail. So we have love mail here. This is an email we got. BB, you guys are the best. Your podcast. Oh, this is actually numbered. Number 1, you guys are the best. Your podcast is one of my favorite parts of the week. Number 2, boo. I miss your interview show. I'm sad that you took that away, but I'll still listen to you, I guess. Number 3, we didn't stop the interviews. They're just not as frequent. Number 3, Adam, I listen every week with bated breath, still waiting for my shout out. I'm the PSU alum who saw you in Youngstown in April.
At the Funny Farm.
Even though you're ignoring me, you're still one of my favorites.
Man.
My husband Phil and I chatted with him after the show. Is this a man or this is a woman?
This is the woman,
Okay.
and it was a couple. And this always happens to me. When I go out, I've remembered once or twice to give shout outs to people that I meet at shows. And I always say I'm going to give them a shout out on the podcast. And then I write their names down on my phone and then I forget. Because I'm just,
Oh, do you have it
it just
written down
slips.
somewhere?
I think I might. Let me see.
Okay, my husband Phil and I chatted with him after the show. We connected over being Penn State grads, and then I informed him that the forum was making fun of him that week for not remembering how to log into the forum.
Oh, okay.
Smiley face. His comedy show is great. I can't wait to see him again next time he's in the Opa area. Keep up the good work. XOXO, December Planet.
That's her name. It's December Planet and her husband Phil.
Okay. Nailed it. Well, that's nice. Wonderful.
Yes. And thank you guys so much for coming out to the show. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks for numbering your paragraphs.
Oh, it's a great,
It's so much easier.
very organized. Yeah.
So we got more love mail here.
Can I read this one?
Yeah.
Hey guys. First, I'd like to say how much I appreciate the podcast and all the content the BB produces. My work can be pretty stressful at times, so taking a minute to open the app can help move the day along. I was also really amused by the love language banter this last episode. My company recently had us complete a workspace love language quiz. My team and I, child therapists, those are parentheses,
That wasn't
not
children.
a woman's body, spent a few serious moments discussing the difference between personal love languages and the workplace variety, and then enjoyed making fun of it for the next week or so, especially touch points. We agreed our team love language is raises/bonuses and tacos, but sadly, the quiz does not offer this as a choice. Hope you enjoy it too. Dan printed out the quiz. Thanks for sharing your creative gifts with the rest of us. (parentheses). Erica.
Love language at work just sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It does.
I think, aren't you trained not to do
Yeah,
that kind of stuff
keep
at
that
work?
stuff at
Oh, is this
home,
the actual quiz?
especially if you're a
quiz.
child therapist.
What fills up your love tank at work?
Are you giving the quiz to
That's
Adam
what-
right
what's
now?
up? Because-
Fills up your love tank at work?
Yeah.
These blackberry Waterloo sparkling waters.
And it says, we're just kidding, sort of.
Wink.
Imagine how well we could work together if we spoke each other's love language fluently. Imagine if your boss knew how much of an impact a small, well done would make on your motivation at work. Take this quiz to determine your language of love in the workplace. Number 1, it's your first week of work in a new job. What gesture would mean the most to you? Your coworker who was promoted from your position shares some tips and advice for getting started. Your boss arranges lunch for you and your team so everyone can get to know each other. You're immediately granted access to some of the most exciting projects the senior team members are working on. A coworker volunteers to walk you through some of the processes that can seem unfamiliar or confusing. Or your boss schedules a series of meetings over the next 3 months to check in on your progress and to clear up any confusing aspects of your new job.
I think the first one for me. Having
your
the person that you basically took their position, they got
So
Not possessed,
So you're
promoted.
like the spunky new kid.
Yeah,
And there's
they're
the
like-
grizzled old guy. and
they
he's
take
like,
you under your wing.
All right, listen up, kid.
Yeah,
This is my last mission.
right. I'm just 2 weeks till retirement.
2
but
weeks.
Here's what we're gonna
Here's
do.
what we're gonna-
I think the coworker taking you through some of the processes that
Okay.
might be unfamiliar.
I like the lunch.
So we each have a different work love language that fills up our love tank at work.
Interesting.
All right, we'll do a couple more here. I do like the idea that this person Erica says that raises is not one of the it's not one of the love languages.
Raises, bonuses,
Yeah.
and tacos.
Like I just want to make more money.
Yeah.
That's how
Which-
I would feel.
That
about
is
it.
Yeah.
how a lot of people feel the most
Like,
rewarded at work.
Maybe with a raise.
Yeah.
You've outperformed your goals this year and you're looking forward to recognition. What type of recognition would mean the most from your boss? A congratulatory email or a shout out at the next all team meeting? A team outing to celebrate everyone's varied accomplishments? A meeting where your boss presents new opportunities that will strengthen your skills and broaden your experience?
Is one of the answers for all of these going to be a meeting?
One love language is meetings, apparently. A hearty congratulatory email that also details your potential path upward at the organization. Or a high five and a big smile.
I kind of don't like any of those.
I like the congratulations email, especially if it
That's
has
okay.
like here's a path to.
Yeah,
Because one of them was like a congratulations email, and then one of them was that plus, hey, here's how you can.
Yeah, this was a simple email. This was a hearty email.
Oh, I'd
I
go
didn't
with
know
hearty.
hearty was the opposite of simple.
Is simple or hearty?
A simple but hearty email.
I'll take the high five.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. I
Travis,
prefer an in-person
You did a
thing.
great job.
Oh, thanks.
All right, let's do one more. This has like 20 questions. So, your favorite coworker is having a particularly tough week, and they seem like they can't just catch a break. They just can't catch a break. What do you do? Send an email. Have a meeting. Send an email with advice on how you handled a similar problem in the past. Mm-hmm. Invite your coworker on a lunch walk to vent and take a break. Offer an encouraging pat on the back with consent. With consent. That doesn't say that. Oh. But offer an encouraging pat on the back from your experience. This too shall pass. Offer to take a specific piece of work off their plate this week. Bring your coworker an afternoon coffee to help them get through the rest of the day. What do you think you would do? Tough week.
I like either the lunch or the coffee.
Lunch or coffee.
It's like, yeah, go out.
Yeah,
let's go grab lunch and talk.
I agree. I'd lunch or coffee.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a tough one because it's going to be variable depending on who the coworker is and your relationship with them. Like, you can't just take something off their plate if they work in a different department.
It's your favorite coworker, though, right?
It says your favorite one.
Your favorite one.
Oh.
So who is that for you, Travis?
So I would probably do the vent walk thing, lunch walk.
You want to take a vent walk? Also, I should note that pat on the back is in quotes. It says offer an encouraging pat on the back.
That makes it sound more suspicious. Yeah. What were you guys doing in there? I was just giving him a pat on the back.
I don't know.
Pat on the back.
Pat on the back.
So the different love languages that they say are words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, service, and physical touch.
Physical touch, that's a weird one at work.
But it says that for workplace, we replace physical touch with encouragement. We call it encouraging touch points.
Oh, I wish they would replace it with pat on the back in quotes.
Well, that's a touch point for some people.
So you're supposed to offer metaphorical
touching. Yes. Okay.
Metaphorical touches.
You can't do real touching.
That just sounds like phone sex. It's like I'm touching your back right now. You're just describing the touch to them.
Hey, I'm giving you a hearty handshake for a job well done.
All right, we have a subscriber dare now from JD, and he says, I'm writing for 2 reasons. First, and I mean 0.9 offense to your current reservist on staff. What is 0.9 offense? Like, it means mostly offense?
I don't know what that means.
But y'all need a military advisor on retainer because when you talk about tanks, bombs, and national strategic strategy, it hurts me on the inside.
Ouch.
I guess we don't talk about tanks correctly. Second, I have a subscriber.
Nuclear bomb is like the black bowling ball with this.
It's got
fuse
the little...
coming out of it, right?
Yeah.
That's what a nuclear bomb looks like.
Yeah, and the only way to diffuse it is to cut off the little fuse.
Or you can go
yeah.
as it goes down.
That's right.
And you have time to run around with it on your head. Mm-hmm. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Some days you just can't.
Second, I have a subscriber dare. As a free-thinking American citizen, I cannot knowingly give my money to someone who'll use then part of it to pay taxes to California. So leave California. Go to Texas, Montana, Vermont, or Florida, and then I will subscribe.
Wow.
That's quite the dare.
Also, I'm mad at Adam. The one time I ever see he is on the East Coast, I already have plans in that city.
Well, that's not Adam's
I wonder
fault.
which city. If that was Savannah, Georgia, I did stand up in Savannah, Georgia this weekend. It turned out it was in a gay bar before a drag show.
Do you have a picture
They advertised it just as a comedy club.
Right.
And the audience was great. It was fun. There were some Babylon Bee people that came out. But when I showed up, it was right before a drag show. Like, they have not seen our articles.
Oh, that'd be weird, too, because you didn't know it was a gay bar at first. Right?
No,
So it's like you invite everyone, like, at the end of your weekly news, hey, everybody, I'm going to be in Savannah, Georgia. Come on down. And then everyone's like,
the audience.
It's a gay bar.
What's he trying to pull?
Yeah, what's Adam trying to tell me? That's why he's so upset.
The audiences, they were good, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from Brother in Christ, JD. So.
Well, hold on, Kyle. Let's not be too hasty. Will you accept his dare?
No.
Oh, well.
At
I
least
guess
not
we just
for a
lost a
while.
subscriber.
Yeah, no. If it helps, the corporate offices are in Florida.
Yeah, you can subscribe there.
Seth makes most of the money from this thing. So
good.
Most of it's going to Florida.
That's a good point.
And now it's time for the Babylon Bees Bible verse of the week. Amen.
So this is from the book of Judges. And Abimelech says Abimelech came as far as the tower and fought against it, and he drew near the door of the tower to burn it with fire. But a certain woman dropped an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. Then he called quickly to the young man, his armor-bearer, and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, lest men say of me, a woman killed him." So this young man thrust him through, and he died.
And then the Holy Spirit recorded it so that we will all know
And now,
that a
for the
woman
rest
killed
of time, people know that a woman killed him, and his plan did not work.
Oh, man.
I like that that's his main concern after his head gets crushed.
Oh no, I don't want to die by a woman.
I died from a woman.
Well, it probably messed up his brain chemistry so that's all he was worried about at the time.
It's like getting hit by a bus.
I wouldn't know that. I don't know. What do you mean?
On MyPillow's 20-year anniversary, with over 80 million MyPillows sold, Mike Lindell and the MyPillow employees want to thank each and every one of you by giving you the lowest price in history on their MyPillows. Queen-size MyPillow's regular price is $69.98, now only $19.98, and just $10 more for king-size. MyPillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep ever. Go to mypillow.com/B, that's B-E-E, and use the promo code B. In addition to the special anniversary offer on the MyPillows, you will also receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products, such as bed sheets, mattress toppers, pet beds, mattresses, my slippers, and so much more. Take advantage of the biggest sale in MyPillow's history. Go to mypillow.com/B and use promo code B for the deep discounts.
What's in the news this week?
This isn't a real headline. This is a Babylon Bee headline. What's kind of a real headline? Hollywood confused by new movie that depicts child sex trafficking as bad.
That's definitely one of those ones where you use the GIF. I thought this was supposed to be satire because it's kind of not
exactly
really.
They are upset by this. Yeah, this.
I
is
like the idea that they got all excited, like, oh, a movie about child sex trafficking, and then they were like,
it's anti.
it's anti. Not good.
So it's the new film Sound of Freedom, and a lot of the media is calling it paranoid and QAnon adjacent. They're trying to link this movie to QAnon, even though it has nothing to do with QAnon. And this, where was the headline about the war? I think this is Rolling Stone.
Rolling Stone, yeah.
Their headline said, Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. The QAnon-tinged thriller about child trafficking is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer.
See, just that headline makes it sound like child trafficking doesn't exist.
Right.
But we know it does.
And
it's a real thing.
I don't understand. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I'm sort of withholding judgment on whether it's good or not or what the message is until I've seen it. But I've heard mostly good things about it. And I listened to Jim Caviezel and what's the guy that Tim? Is he
Tim
the guy
Ballard.
Tim Ballard.
Oh, yeah.
They were
Who the movie's based
on Jordan Peterson's podcast, and I listened to them. They were great. And they mentioned, about how some of these past criticisms and media sites have tried to link it to QAnon. And I went on the Wikipedia article about him and looked it up. They don't even have there's no solid evidence that links him to QAnon.
Mm-hmm.
They just associate it with that.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
they said that there was some interview where he said if he would denounce QAnon. And he said, I know there's people in QAnon that are concerned about child trafficking. And he said, if that's what they believe, we'd love to talk to them and tell them the truth and the facts about it.
Yeah.
And so they took that as he endorses QAnon.
Right. This is the thing where it's like you have to go on the record and say, I support the war on terror.
Yeah.
Right now. I'm like, well, there's different factors and I want to talk about certain things. Oh, you're a terrorist.
Yeah.
Do you support the war on terror?
So this is a strange thing where journalists are very much, like you said, they're just linking things for the sake of linking it. And it's like, well, why are they going out of their way to do this without evidence? That's not a journalistic standard that I'm aware of.
I guess it also beat Indiana Jones for the 4th of July weekend.
On 4th of July. It was just on 4th
of July.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because it has the word freedom in it.
I mean, do you want to see Indiana Jones or America?
Yeah. And I'd rather see America.
It's true. The same people that attacked Sound of Freedom had nothing but praise for the classic movie Cuties. So here's a tweet from Rolling Stone back when Cuties was in the news. Thanks to a major marketing mistake, the award-winning French movie Cuties was accused of sexualizing young girls. It's actually a sensitive portrait of growing pains that deserves to be seen.
Ugh. You know, Cuties is one of those things where I have to just take them at their word that it's supposed to be depicting something and you're not supposed to like it. But I don't know if that's a marketing mistake when they're putting here's the poster and all these sexualized children.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at that. That's gross.
I think it's I never saw Cuties, so I don't know what it's actually about. That could be true that it's just more about the girl's story, but the way it was marketed seemed kind of pervy and weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. And I mean, Cuties 3D is okay, but definitely don't go for the original.
The Washington Post had tweeted back in 2020, Perspective, Cuties is an unflinching look at what it means to be a preteen girl. No wonder people can't handle it.
Yeah, that's the problem with it.
So, yeah.
And it might have helped if they didn't call it Cuties.
I know.
Like,
Well, let's call it something different in French, right? Or like the
Yes,
word in French might have different
it
connotations
wasn't
or
called the
whatever.
same thing in French. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if you're trying to talk against the sexualization of young girls, you shouldn't put them in those compromising, like the actual actors are young girls,
Yeah.
in this movie. So
Yeah. So the French film was called Don't Sexualize Young Girls, and then the American version is like Cuties.
exactly.
It's a translation error.
It's a translation problem. Well, speaking of far right things, the new far right obsession is fitness. According to MSNBC, they had an article, The Far Right's Obsession with Fitness is Going Digital. Why the far right is really into home fitness.
That's how I learned that I was a liberal. I don't have the great physique, but
So
I'll get there if I really want to be conservative.
it's
They're trying to associate fitness with far right ideology now.
well, that's fun.
So is this just like they're kind of pushing back so far against the so-called fat shaming? And now they're like, oh, it's because you just guys are obsessed
I don't
with
think this was
fitness.
about fat shaming. I did read the article. It's a very convoluted, weird point she's trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
But she cites a few examples of far right people starting these like fitness groups or being attracted to fitness influencers and home health and stuff online.
Yeah.
And then she says that it's associated with things like patriarchy and toxic masculinity and virile men.
Mm.
And that's all akin to white nationalism and white supremacy. That they use it both to recruit men in those circles and that it plays into the far right ideology.
Well, it's funny because to an extent she's correct that it's associated with that because she showed association with that. So it's just not the kind of association we're really talking about. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger doing his like fitness challenges around the country back like during Bush's presidency and Clinton's presidency. Arnold is not a far right person. He's very moderate.
No.
So I just don't really.
He's one generation removed from Nazis.
Oh, you're right.
Well, I know this is funny, but so is she saying that is this fringe group that is into fitness and is also into far right stuff? But she's not necessarily saying if you're into fitness, you're
She's
a Nazi.
That's not the claim that she's not saying that if you're into fitness, you're into Nazis directly. But I think what's weird about it is it has that sort of
There's a tone to
where
it.
it's like beware of this like fitness.
Okay.
So it's kind
craze.
of it's a waste of time article saying
It is. It's a very pointless kind of article.
yeah, they're not necessarily associated, but they're associated.
Mm-hmm.
Wink.
Yeah, wink. Thank you. They have to type wink because it's an article.
That's right. The Department of Justice has indicted a missing Biden whistleblower just days after he went public with bombshell bribery revelations.
I thought it was safe to be a whistleblower. That's what they always
Not
told
against
Snowden.
the Bidens.
They said, Snowden, why didn't you just go through the proper channels?
Israeli professor Dr. Gal Luft, a key Biden whistleblower who was missing for several weeks, has missing is in quotation marks. What's the symbol for that? Is it this?
Yes.
Okay. You had a nice parentheses one, so I didn't know if you had a different quote one.
No, they're the
Okay.
same. The standard.
Okay, this is the standard. Has been indicted by the Department of Justice just days after releasing a bombshell video in which he accused the Biden family of accepting bribes and assisting the Chinese government. He was apprehended in Cyprus to prevent him from providing damning testimony to the House Oversight Committee. That's what he claimed. The professor asserts that the Biden family received payments from individuals with alleged ties to Chinese military intelligence, further alleging the existence of an FBI mole who leaked classified information to China-controlled energy company CEFC. That's interesting.
That's a funny thing too, because yeah, technically, anytime you make America look bad, it aids China, technically. But that doesn't mean he was aiding China. I wonder if they have some evidence that we're not aware of.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But I mean, it was still worth exposing. So I don't. It's just
speaking of exposing, Jack White has lashed out against celebrities,
gross.
including Guy Fieri, Mark Wahlberg, Joe Rogan, and Mel Gibson for normalizing former President Donald Trump. That's good.
Cool. Well, his
That made me sad because I like Jack White.
Yeah,
But
that is sad.
He wrote a James Bond song,
yeah, that's right.
and it was okay.
Are the James Bond songs generally seen as having some kind of art value, or
Yes.
because I've heard them and I don't think they're very good.
Oh well, there's good art and there's bad art,
Okay.
but it's still art.
I agree with you there. But no, it's sad to see somebody have Trump derangement syndrome like that. And it's the thing where they were at a UFC fight and they shook hands with him.
That's
and then you get
normalizing
mad.
him,
You get mad like you're. I'm sure some of them do support him and endorse him, but it's like you can't even shake hands with a former president of the United States at an event
It's
and
that-
then say. And Jack White, he also did the thing where he says he's a racist and all this stuff, and it's all these just leftist,
It's that
character
platforming
smears that they
normalizing
use.
thing and association thing that's always a line, like the line that you cross for me is like if you're at the
Yeah.
same event as somebody, or you shake their hand, now you're normalizing.
Yeah,
And the big one was when Trump was running, when Jimmy Fallon had him on and mussed with his hair.
Yeah.
And then people freaked out.
Oh,
and were
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
normalizing him. Why'd you give him a platform? It's like he's running for president, whether you like him or not.
Right.
He's a huge celebrity, and he's,
and he's on a
he's
late night comedy show.
He's popular with half the country.
Checking if his hair is real was actually a decent bit.
Yeah. I don't know if Jack White's hair is real there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I saw the new cartoon Spider-Man this week.
How was it?
I have mixed feelings about it.
Woke or not woke?
It was not woke.
Okay.
There was like a Black Lives Matter sticker on a
So woke.
door somewhere.
Okay.
In the background or something. But other than that, it was like they probably watched the movie and they were like, "Oh shoot, we didn't put any woke stuff in."
We just
Put the sticker.
We
in
put the
Add something in
Chinese
the
map in
background.
Barbie. Let's give this one the
Yeah.
BLM sticker.
But I guess it was like just basically a part one of a 2-part thing.
Yeah.
So we were watching it, and it was like 2.5 hours long. We were
Whoa.
with the kids, and we're like,
We're an animated
"How are
movie.
they going to wrap this up in the next 2 minutes?" And then it just goes, "Let's go get him." And then it was like, "To be
Oh,
continued."
it
and
literally
we're like,
just cuts it in half. Yeah.
"What?"
Travis, are you going to wait for both of them to come out and then watch them as a 2-pack?
Yeah, that's yeah, as a 2-pack, that'd be sweet. At my personal Las Vegas screening area. I actually just saw the new Mission Impossible last night.
Oh, really?
That's
it just came
also-
out like
It came out yesterday,
yeah.
and it's also
was-
a part 1.
Really?
Yeah, and it really does. It's not as bad as your description of the
But it does
Spider-Man
just
one, but it's
kinda-
very much like, wow, nothing's like resolved. Okay, bye, and
Let's go.
yeah,
And it just stops.
yeah.
The lights come on. You're like, "What?"
But it was good. It was very
I'm gonna
good.
be honest. I liked the first 3 Mission Impossible movies, and I thought Ghost Protocol was kind of funny. And everything after that blends together in my mind. They're all the same to me.
They all
they're
blend
all-
together in my
I
mind.
don't-
I've seen them each once,
Yeah.
and they're all the same.
And
movie
everybody
to me.
loves the new ones. Maybe I got to give them another shot.
Well,
but they
the
kinda
new
blend.
ones are all by the same director, so that's why they all seem
Maybe
the
they all,
same.
yeah.
But I think they finally hit a good formula
Yeah.
where it's literally just, oh, these are what good James Bond movies used to be like, and that's why
Formula
I
of,
like them. I love.
he's working for the government, and then they turn on him, and then
Oh, I think
he's always like cast down in every movie.
I'm pretty sure every single movie he goes rogue or
it's
something.
just like we're going rogue again.
That's why I pitched that headline yesterday.
Yeah, I
I
saw
was
that.
literally in the middle of the movie going,
You were pitching
in
that
surprise
anyway.
twist. Yeah, I didn't want to forget.
Surprise twist. Ethan Hunt goes rogue.
Goes rogue again.
Mission Impossible movies for me are always I go see them and then I forget what happened in them,
Yeah.
and then I have no intention to see the next one. But a friend will always invite me, and then I'll go, I'll see it, and I go, oh, that was a good movie.
Yeah.
And then I forget about it till the next one.
Yeah,
comes
I
out.
think especially for these more recent ones, it's just the action set pieces. You're there for that, and they're really good.
I like the one where he jumped out of that building.
Yeah.
Was that Ghost Protocol? The Saudi Arabia building where
Yes,
he like
Ghost
jumped-
Protocol.
Burj Khalifa, that one.
Yeah.
Dubai, or was it Saudi
Dubai.
Arabia?
Oh yeah.
Dubai,
Is
yeah.
Dubai in Saudi Arabia?
No, it's the UAE.
It's in the Middle East.
Is that not the same thing?
No, Saudi Arabia is a country.
Oh.
I almost said city. It's a country.
What's United Arab Emirate?
It's just nearby.
It's a different country.
Yeah.
It's a small country. Yeah,
It's also a country.
It's
country
a
of its own,
weird
yeah.
it's a weird name for a country because it sounds like a sports team.
Yeah, UAE.
Oh, it's the United Arab Emirates.
Oh, yeah.
Go team.
Go Emirates.
Go Emirates. Yeah.
Banger of the week.
All right, well, now it's time for the Babylon Bee Banger of the Week. Police investigating corpse that washed up on Delaware Beach.
The Photoshop, it's so simple with just the police
police
line,
line,
but
perfect.
it's so funny to me.
It's funny because I didn't see the original photo.
No.
So I saw this on the Bee first. And I was like, oh, who is that? What is that? I was
So
I
for
don't
like
get
hours,
this at
you
all.
thought that for a whole day, you thought that there was a dead body on a Delaware Beach.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, someone put him on a lounge chair. That's nice.
That was nice of them.
Bomb of the week.
We also have a bomb of the week. Peacock changes name to More Honest. That service you only bought to watch The Office.
I like that. Relatable.
That's another one.
The
where it's
Office
that's not
used
really
to be
satire.
on Netflix, right?
Yes.
That was the big thing. That's how they launched
they-
Peacock.
yeah.
Was they managed to get the rights back and then
That's
dump
what-
it on
yeah.
Peacock. Yeah.
It's time for the weekly news with Adam Yetzer.
We begin with an update on last week's top story. According to police and the Secret Service, they still don't know who brought cocaine into the most secure, well-guarded, heavily monitored building on Earth. At a pageant on Saturday, Ricky Valerie Cole, who is transgender, was crowned Miss Universe Netherlands, which means in a historic first, Miss Netherlands has neither nethers. But this is insane. There's no way that person should have the title Miss Netherlands when biologically those teeth are British. In an interview this week, President Biden said that Ukraine isn't ready for NATO membership because, for one thing, there's a dress code. During the interview, Biden also publicly revealed that the U.S. military is running low on some types of ammunition. Under Biden, the military has also run low on recruits, but does have a surplus of genders and pronouns. A new study found that rattlesnakes are calmer when they are around other rattlesnakes. So the best way to protect yourself from an angry rattlesnake is to carry an extra rattlesnake. Scientists found that due to climate change, ocean temperatures off the coast of Florida have reached 97 degrees in some areas. So the next time another swimmer asks you why the water is warm next to you, just say, climate change. Rapper 50 Cent said that LA is finished due to its new no bail policy, which stops police from detaining people for nonviolent crimes. In fact, crime has gotten so bad in 50 Cent's neighborhood that his value has dropped to 25 cents. After a career spanning 5 decades, Elton John performed the final concert of his farewell tour in Stockholm, Sweden. Throughout his career, Elton John won 5 Grammy Awards, had over 50 top 40 hits, and was chosen as one of the gays Republicans like by Rush Limbaugh. That's it for weekly news. To see more, check out my YouTube channel and come see me live. I'll be at the Comedy Chateau in North Hollywood on July 14th, performing at some village in Uganda on August 4th, and at Gold Country Casino in Oroville August 31st. Hey, thanks, Adam Yenser.
Best part of the podcast.
Until this next segment, we have Justin Brierley talking about his new book, The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God.
Tune in.
Hey, I have 2 questions for you. How are you paying for your health care, and how's that working out for you? If it's working perfectly, great. Go grab a snack. If not, then listen closely, because I have a solution for you. A biblical solution. Samaritan Ministries. Samaritan Ministries is a community of Christians paying one another's medical bills. It's biblical, affordable healthcare sharing with no network restrictions. Here's how it works. When a medical need arises, you choose the healthcare provider that's right for you and have a say in the treatment you receive, even if it's a natural approach or an alternative medical treatment. Your medical bills are shared with fellow members and your need is covered in prayer. Healthcare sharing with Samaritan Ministries may also be more affordable than what you're paying now, and if it's the right fit, you can join anytime, even today. Check it out at samaritanministries.org/thebabylonbee. That's samaritanministries.org/thebabylonbee.
The new atheists, essentially, they had a creed. It was materialist naturalism. All that exists is matter in motion. They had an object of worship, basically science, and they had their their high priests, Dawkins, Dennett, Harris, and Hitchens. They had sacred texts. And if you were part of their club, but you decided to go against their orthodoxy, they had their heretics as well.
And now it's time for another interview on the Babylon Bee podcast.
Thank you, guys. Welcome to the interview show. I'm Jarrett LeMaster. This is Travis Woodside. He's with me. And with us today is Justin Brierley. You've had a podcast forever called The Unbelievable Podcast. And I've watched you many, many times interview very interesting people over the years. You had this passion to bring people together that had differing points of view, to try to find some common ground, to kind of have good discussions where nobody was yelling at each other.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Was that
exactly.
It's kind of an apologetics podcast, right? Would you describe it
That's
like
right.
that? Yeah.
But you're not doing that podcast anymore?
I'm not. Yeah, this is kind of fairly new, but just about 3 months ago, I moved on from hosting the show. I started the show. It ran under my tutelage for 17 and a half years, and I had a wonderful time bringing lots of Christians and non-Christians together for some pretty high-profile debates. And yeah, it was a wonderful show. It continues without me under new management, as it were. But I'm off doing some fresh new things in the whole area of cultural apologetics at the moment.
That's wonderful. Okay, so tell us a little bit about some of the new things that you have going on. We know you have a book coming out, so we want to make sure we plug that. What is the book? What are you doing? What are you up to?
Well, one of the things I noticed over the last few years of doing the Unbelievable show was that the nature of the conversations was changing. So I felt like the new atheist debates that kind of typified the show in its early years had actually waned, and it was being replaced by a new kind of conversation on God, still with secular intellectuals and thinkers, but they were no longer kind of just dismissing religion and God out of hand. They were actually quite often sympathetic to the claims of Christianity. They were quite often on the same side on some cultural issues as Christians. And this got me interested. So that's really where the book came from, the surprising rebirth of belief in God. It's about the way new atheism, I think, grew old, and the rise of this new conversation among secular intellectuals like Jordan Peterson, Tom Holland, Douglas Murray, and a number of others who seem to be actually asking whether we can live without religion. And alongside that, I was also discovering lots of interesting stories of people who had actually converted to Christianity as adults, surprising converts. And I put all of this together, and I feel like we might be on the verge of a kind of rebirth of belief in God in our culture. I think people have got tired of the atheist materialist story. I don't think it's answered any of their questions. And we're living through this meaning crisis where people are actually looking for answers again. And I feel like we might be on the verge of being able to see the Christian story start to answer those questions again.
So you mentioned new atheism, and we know what it is because we're smart. But for any
Travis.
listener just tuning in, how would you define new atheism compared to just generic?
Did you just say nude atheism?
Absolutely.
Nude atheism is where Richard Dawkins goes on OnlyFans, I think. But the new atheism is something
That's
different.
an image.
Yeah, sorry. Try to wipe that from your mind immediately.
That's funny.
No, the new atheism was kind of, it was around 2004, 2005, 2006. It started to emerge very much in response, I think, to 9/11, to religious extremism. And it was a set of high profile intellectuals who came out swinging for science, for Darwinism, for rationality, and very much saying science has disproved God, religion is fairy tales. In fact, it's very bad for you indeed. And so this was kind of typified by best-selling books, The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, God is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett, the other two of the Four Horsemen, also had their own books. And there were a lot of conferences that took place around this time. It was a real internet phenomenon as well. I think in some ways it was really spurred on by chat rooms and early forms of social media. It allowed atheists who perhaps felt they didn't have a voice up to that point, especially in the USA, to actually get together and talk. And so it developed into this very brash, quite antagonistic form of non-belief, where ridicule as much as reason was used to critique Christianity. And it rode high, for quite a while. It was, in a way, it was great for my show because it was a really obvious kind of opponent. It was something we could really get our teeth into, have real debates around God, belief, Christianity. And yeah, I'd say it kind of started to run out of steam though, sort of sometime in the 2010s, I think. People, I guess, perhaps just got a little bit tired of it. It started to sound a little bit shrill and dogmatic itself, even taking on a slightly religious fervor, among its adherents. So that was kind of, where it came from.
I'm very interested to know, from your perspective, who was the most interesting person you had on? What was the best debate you had in the last 17 years?
Oh, it's like asking me to choose between my children. That's a really, really tough one. One of the standout ones I remember, it was one of our big conversation episodes. I don't know if you guys have come across Tom Holland. He's a secular historian here in the UK, not the Spider-Man actor, but a best-selling.
That was my first thought, unfortunately.
I was like, he's been busy.
I know.
He's been busy.
And the thing is, he's very active on Twitter and constantly gets tagged by people who think he's actually Spider-Man. But anyway, he's a really interesting guy. He's been on my show several times. He's a best-selling author of historical kind of history. He runs a really successful podcast called The Rest Is History. But he produced a book in 2019 called Dominion, and it was essentially about the way he, as a secular intellectual, had come to realize that everything he holds dear, all of his moral instincts, everything the West really holds to value, like human rights, dignity, equality, really all stem from the Christian Revolution 2,000 years ago. He had kind of grown up assuming, well, this is just the way civilized societies are. This is just, probably a product of reason and the Enlightenment. But what he realized by actually studying the ancient world of Rome and Greece, he realized, no, these are very alien cultures to my way of thinking. This is a place where, there was no such thing as sexual consent among slaves and women, where human life was very expendable. Where did we get this idea of the dignity and value of all human lives? And he realized it really did start with Christianity. And he realized that in every way, intellectually and morally, he was a Christian. I had him on the show to debate that idea with A.C. Grayling, quite a well-known atheist philosopher also in the UK. He had written a similar huge tome on the history of philosophy in the West. And he came from a completely diametrically opposed opinion. He just thought Christianity had been the worst thing for the world ever. It had basically trashed the ancient world. And they just had the sparkiest, most probably fun and interesting debate I've ever had the pleasure of moderating. So it was really fun. And if you go and watch that debate, especially the first 20 or so minutes, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure because Tom Holland really does, I think, take A.C. Grayling to task just on his history. So yeah, a bit of a guilty pleasure to watch that one.
That's good. You're gonna need to check that out. Gonna have to check that out. Now, are we past? This is one quick question. Are we? Maybe not a quick question. Do you think so? Pre-modernism, faith informs reason. Modernism, reason sort of informs faith, and then postmodernism, we're kind of past all that. Are we past postmodernism, or do you think we're still in that phase? And if so, what are we looking forward to, do you think?
I think we're very much still feeling the effects of the postmodern revolution. And I think we're seeing that in our culture where everyone has their own truth, essentially. That's one way of describing postmodernism, I suppose. And to that extent, everyone's identity, truth has to be regarded as sacrosanct. The strange thing is that although postmodernity has essentially rejected religious institutions and claims to objective truth, it still seems to hanker after something like really solid truth, because once someone has claimed to have a particular identity, then to deny it, you are effectively denying their personhood. It becomes sacred. It becomes quasi-religious itself. And that's one of the key things I think that comes out. Something I spell out in the book is that whichever age we're living in, pre-modern, modern, postmodern, the religious sort of hankering, the religious impulse is there all along. It just takes different forms. And for me, people don't become less religious in a post-Christian age. They just become religious about other things. I think the God-shaped hole exists and people are trying to fill it with various things. I think that we get into a point in our postmodern culture where actually people are starting to realize these stories don't all hang together. We used to have a kind of common narrative, a thread that we could all essentially subscribe to in the West. It was the story of Christianity. Now that we've essentially lost that and we're all got a lot of competing stories that are all bumping up against each other. We've entered the culture wars. We've entered this endless, noisy, proliferation of different ideologies and identities which cannot agree with each other. And so I think there comes a point when that runs out of steam, when people just can't get on with that anymore. And I think we're seeing it in the meaning crisis, the way that we're seeing anxiety, depression, suicide rates going up, even in our technologically literate, very sort of wealthy society. We're no happier than, in fact, we're less happy than our forebears. So for me, it all points towards the fact that people are looking for a true story. And this might be the moment when we've been let down by the new atheism, we've been let down by postmodernism, we've been let down by the new religions, that maybe it's time for the Christian story to step up again.
Sure. And in your opinion, that's probably why new atheism even started in the first place, because it's almost religious and fanatical in a sense. And
I think it took on a kind of quasi-religious form. I think things always do, don't they? When they're basically put in the position of God. And the new atheists, essentially, they had a creed. It was materialist naturalism. All that exists is matter in motion. They had an object of worship, basically science, and that was going to be their savior. That was going to be the thing that, and they had their high priests, Dawkins, Dennett, Harris, and Hitchens. They had sacred texts. And if you were part of their club, but you decided to go against their orthodoxy, they had their heretics as well. People like Thomas Nagel, who's an atheist, but who wrote a book called Mind and Cosmos, which said, well, maybe there is some kind of purpose in the universe. And he got absolutely rounded on with unswerving zeal by the new atheists. So we all kind of have that religious tendency. Right. The new atheists are no exception in that sense. It's just that their object of worship, like so many, was misplaced,
That's amazing. Okay, so what is the name of your book again? I don't see it in my notes, but tell us the name of your book so that people can buy it, and we'll just keep talking about the name of your book so we can sell 1 million copies and you can get super rich.
Well, that would be great. The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God is the name of the book. The subtitle, because I like my long subtitles, is Why New Atheism Grew Old and Secular Thinkers Are Considering Christianity Again. And that in a nutshell is sort of the argument of the book.
Old atheism.
Yeah, exactly.
New atheism is...
Nude atheism.
Yeah, nude atheism.
And old atheism.
So since new atheism is kind of fallen, there's just no more atheism anymore, and it's all everyone's Christian now, right?
Yeah,
basically. I mean,
great.
You solved it.
What's interesting to me is that looking at where the new atheists are now. Okay, so where are the people who were basically filling conferences to declaim God, who were selling these best-selling books arguing against religion? None of them are talking about religion anymore. They've all moved on, and so if you look at Sam Harris, for instance, where's he? Well, he's fighting the culture wars. If you look at Christopher Hitchens died kind of before really the culture wars.
Where's he now? Where's he now?
That's another good question.
Anyway, if we're asking these questions, where are these?
We're just asking questions.
Where are they now? Yeah. We know where Peter Hitchens is. I was like, have you ever talked to Peter Hitchens?
Yeah, several times on the show. Well, the interesting thing about Peter is obviously brother of Christopher Hitchens. He's almost the polar opposite, a very staunch Christian, very conservative Christian in many ways. He's kind of just as kind of ornery as his brother, though. Yes. He's like a really grumpy guy.
His voice is so funny. Actually, I love that guy so much because I laugh out loud whenever I hear him or watch him. He's so funny. He's a great guy.
He kind of wears it it's a bit of an identity, I think, but it is a fun one.
Yeah, he's got that really upper crust British accent too. It's awesome. That's incredible. So you mentioned earlier Jordan Peterson. I mean, he's packing, I don't know if it's stadiums, but he's packing very large rooms Auditoriums. Big, large, lots of seats with talking about the Old Testament with not a lot of people that are Christians in the room.
Yeah.
And what do you think this is kind of part of this phenomenon, isn't it? Like people are interested in this and in truth and in, morality, and morality having a beginning and like a reason. Do you think, what is the Jordan Peterson effect, and why is it happening? Is it all part of the same thing?
I've been fascinated by this ever since Peterson came on my own show, several years ago. And when I had him on in a discussion on, do we need God to make sense of life? He was opposite an atheist psychologist, Susan Blackmore. And he basically acted the part of the Christian apologist for the purposes of that show. He basically argued that we do need God to make sense of life. Now, he kind of has this interesting definition of God, and it's hard to pin down exactly what his beliefs are around God and Christianity. But for the most part, Jordan Peterson is very different to most of his atheist brethren. And what's been really interesting about that is that the people who turn out to hear him talk about the Old Testament, to say life, you have to have meaning, you have to have purpose in life. They're the same crowd who I think were turning out for the new atheists when they were at their height. Mm-hmm. But I think what they found was they didn't offer any answers. They didn't offer any actual substantive sort of way of living your life in a way that was meaningful, because science and reason alone won't do it. You can look at the stars and that's great, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily going to change your life. And Jordan Peterson was basically offering a lot of people suffering a kind of identity and meaning crisis, a way of understanding themselves, especially in the light of ancient wisdom from the Bible. And it's really interesting because even though he kind of seems to be teetering on the edge of Christian faith himself, a lot of the people who have followed him have walked through that door. It's almost like he's been a gateway drug to taking Christianity seriously. I know a number of people who have basically come to faith because Jordan Peterson made it intellectually possible to take the Bible seriously. Yeah. And so it's just fascinating. I'm not saying that this is the beginnings of some great revival led by Jordan Peterson, but it is a sign, I think, of the fact that the conversation has changed massively, especially at those upper levels, where people can entertain the idea even of God and Christianity in a more serious way.
Yeah, well, what really intrigues me about Jordan Peterson, though, is I mean, you kind of hit on it, is that he's not a Christian, but he's, packing rooms to talk about biblical concepts and things, and he seems to at least acknowledge that there's a greater purpose out there. Why do you think, and I don't want you to just speak for him, obviously, but why do you think him and people like him are spending so much time and energy discussing this when they don't even fully believe it? Do you think that's just them on their own personal growth and they'll eventually get there, or?
I think, in all honesty, and I don't, as you said, I don't want to speak for Jordan Peterson, but my hunch about where he's at is that he desperately wants it to be true, because the alternatives are pretty nihilistic, and he recognizes that. He knows that if there isn't something like the Christian story, then we're just floating in a meaningless vacuum, basically. Right. And so for him, I think he's very drawn to the Christian story. But I think there probably is a kind of an intellectual barrier there at some level, just at the very sort of almost at the level of, did Jesus rise from the dead? As soon as you kind of say yes to that proposition, you're kind of put on the outside of some intellectual circles. And so it may be difficult for him to kind of get to that place, who knows? But at the same time, him and many others of his, genre are basically saying there is incredible value to this, even if I don't believe the supernatural claims. I can see the effect this has had. He would, just as Tom Holland does, he says, no one can doubt the incredible cultural legacy of Christianity, the way it's shaped our morality and our society. He would also, I think, say, functionally, we can't operate without something like Christianity in the West, that actually the other stories, the atheist materialist stories, they're just not serious enough to help people lead a meaningful life. In that sense, him and many others are kind of almost treating Christianity and religion as a sort of useful fiction. It's a thing you need, even if it's not necessarily true. The thing for me is that's not enough. Right. I think the reason it's useful, the reason it's done so much, is precisely because it is true. I don't think you get these results from something that was actually just something some people made up 2,000 years ago.
Some shared narrative that we all have. Yeah, it is interesting how he talks about that. We recently offended Jordan Peterson.
Oh dear.
Because we wrote an article that said Jordan Peterson interprets the scripture in any possible way other than the way it was intended, or something, something like that. and Eric Metaxas he told me that is what.
Yeah, he shared that with me.
Yeah, he was like, he was very offended by this post. And I was like, okay, well, maybe he should just try interpreting it the way it was intended, maybe.
Sometimes people need to be pricked in the heart, right? And maybe
it's true.
Maybe in time that'll work out for him.
Well, it seems like
be
he
the
has
Babylon
those
Bee
things
that brought him across the line.
That's right.
You know, it wouldn't be. There are some people that come to Christ through the satire. It's actually interesting. It works as an apologetic tool because we're doing philosophy on some level and engaging with the conversation. You know, and so people kind of see the hypocrisy and the incongruity.
What I like about what you guys do is you don't look like dorks. It's kind of like the problem is that the new atheism really managed to make Christians look like dorks, and you guys don't. And that itself, I think, can break down some preconceptions and barriers people have, and just make them possibly a little bit more open to actually hearing the message. I mean, that's the interesting thing about the book, The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God. Some of the stories of the people who have converted are not your usual characters. They're not the people you might expect. They're kind of these intellectuals who are themselves very surprised at the journey they've gone on. I tell the story of Paul Kingsnorth, who's a celebrated author and poet here in the UK. And just a few years ago, he had a dramatic adult conversion to Christianity, quite against his own kind of better judgment. You know, he said, if you had asked me a couple of years before that, if you'd said to me you're going to be a Christian, I would have laughed you out of the room. But it's because I think people are realizing there's a depth here. There's an intellectual tradition that they hadn't realized because it's kind of been disguised or covered over almost by the church and by our culture. But once people realize it and they see how much it makes sense of things compared to the postmodern / materialist narrative, I think people suddenly wake up to the fact that this isn't just Sunday school stuff. This is something that could shape the world before and could shape the world again. You know,
that is amazing. Well, this is I love this conversation. I wish we could talk all day, but we are really wanting our people to check out your book, The Surprising Rebirth of
the surprising rebirth
of belief in God. Please, guys, go check it out. And you are doing more stuff in culture. You're writing books and stuff. You're doing a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
And
if you want to get hold of the book, it's at justinbrierley.com. That's a good place to go and check it out and pre-order it. Yeah.
Great.
I'm even setting up to get signed copies available through my website as well. But you can find out about some of the other stuff I'm involved in, podcasts, videos, and more there.
That's awesome. And I want to say that to everybody that it's a very entertaining read. And I really appreciate the aspects of it about how, I mean, I don't know if you intentionally did it or not, but it really shows how atheism or new atheism ended up being used to spread the gospel in a way. It just reminds me of, what we talk about, how God uses the wise things of the world or the foolish things of the world to
shame the wise.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that's funny. It's so true. I mean, he uses things that we don't expect, and all the time he still does it, and he's still in charge, and we're very grateful for this.
I have a great friend called Peter Byram who I mentioned in the book, and he's a Christian today because of Richard Dawkins, basically. So when I interviewed him about his journey, he said, I want to say thank you, Richard Dawkins. And that is the kind of funny upside down way God often works. So I say thank God for Richard Dawkins too.
Every day. Right. I just thank the Lord when I wake up. Yeah. Justin Brierley, thank you so much for coming on. The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God is your book. Guys, go check it out. It's a great one. So all right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Wow, that was a great interview, Travis, and whoever that other guy was with you.
We hope you stay tuned in for the rest of the podcast. Because that's what you have to do on podcasts. You have to tune into them.
And now it's time for hate mail.
It's like I don't know the things I'm saying are stupid until Kyle says them. And then adds like little...
What's that in the beginning of the podcast, too? It said tune in. But they're already listening to the podcast.
Keep tuning in.
You have to keep tuning in.
Don't touch that dial.
Yeah, don't touch the dial. Because there's dials on our phones.
Because there's dials on the phone.
You used to be good.
Adam Ford.
I really miss Adam Ford.
All right, so we had an article. Moses asked God if he could repart the Red Sea real quick because he dropped his sunglasses in there.
Classic. Who with that headline?
I don't remember. One of the writers pitched it.
It just seems so random. I love it.
And no one could ever be mad or hateful about that headline.
Yeah, loving, funny, lighthearted, very wholesome relatable Bible content. And here's the Ridge replies. God is not mocked. Bad idea to take shots at the word of God.
Well, I do agree that God is not mocked.
God is not mocked in that headline either.
But it's not really mocked. Yeah, okay. All right. The joke is that Moses
Joke is that he drops his
drops
sunglasses.
his sunglasses and he goes,
Oh.
"Oh,
I need another miraculous event right now.
can
to
you
get
part
my
it one more
sunglasses.
time?" It's actually pretty funny. I like the joke more now. All right, now it's time for the subscriber lounge. Stay tuned, and we're gonna keep on talking.
So don't touch that dial.
Don't touch that dial. Here we go.
Tune in.
Coming up next, for Babylon Bee subscribers.
Dan, I owe you one copy of the Book of Eli on DVD.
I take prayer very seriously, but I take subscriber headlines more seriously.
okay.
And there's one of those bowling ball bombs like I was talking about. We actually used it.
Not going to purchase your product again.
Flower bed.
I think he thinks we're Ben and Jerry. Husband knows he still has it when wife whispers in his ear, "I love how the lawn looks."
This has been another edition of the Babylon Bee podcast from the dedicated team of certified fake news journalists you can trust here at the Babylon Bee, reminding you to take the white pill. Jesus has already defeated death for us.